So John, tell us where we're at here.
Well, we're at Border Field, which is a state park that is designated at the border. Can you hear me correctly?
Yes, I believe so.
This is where people would come down here to visit or see people on the other side of the border. You get people at the beach. The beach is full access because you're an American, you live here. You're allowed to have access to the beach. I don't know if you want to go all the way down the sand.
Well, no, we don't want to get like in the water, but
if you look carefully, you can see up to where it curves up. That's probably Chula Vista area up there. But we're technically in the Imperial Beach area. And if you look carefully, the fence or part of it actually slides open right here.
yeah. So we're like right stone's throw from Tijuana, right?
That is Tijuana. On the other side of that fence is Tijuana. Those are Mexican nationals and other people visiting over there.
Huh.
If you see signs, they're at the beach.
It's interesting to see the wall goes out into the ocean. I mean, couldn't somebody just swim right around that?
Yeah, but then they would get captured up here once they swam up here. Customs, Coast Guard, or even a Border Patrol boat unit could intercept them. The fresh salt air. I haven't been at the
Let's
beach.
go take a look at the wall.
You mean this part? He doesn't want us to go past this.
Oh, it doesn't. Okay, but let's just go down there so we can see it without looking through it.
Oh, okay. I'm just looking at how steep.
Here, I'll walk in front.
If it's too steep, I don't want to trip.
If you stay here, I'll just go down and get a shot of the wall.
Oh, okay.
You can keep talking because I got you on radio mic.
Oh, okay.
Or actually here, right here. We can look right through right here. So there's the wall, John.
Oh, you can see the difference on the metal configurations. I don't know why the Democrats insist on claiming it's a wall thing. It's a nice fence. It's metal. It's enough to see through and see who's on the other side, or if some pending army or cartel is arming themselves and coming up to the border, which is a violation of the Treaty of Guadalupe Hidalgo, 1848. And that's an interesting piece of history too. But as he said, he already told me, okay to go to the beach, okay to go to the water, whatever, but not to cross this particular area where the cones are.
Oh, I see that.
So that's a risky area, and you have to have permission, or you have to have somebody monitor what you're doing.
I'm going to just walk right down to there. You can keep telling stories because I can hear you clearly. Give me a little bit of background on where we are. Keep talking as if I'm right here with you.
Yeah, so I guess you're going to go down and get some footage there, but yeah, there's a lot of interesting history. It used to be right up to the one single fence, and if we go back further east from here, they've actually got it layered so that you've got 1, 2, maybe even 3 layers of fencing, which makes it totally different than what it was before. I mean, you can see the old concertina wire, the old-fashioned fencing, and that's not the original stuff, except the other stuff, which is like about 50 yards away. And that's where people are basically kind of restricted. They don't want people to go into that area. But yeah, it's a nice cool day in June gloom weather, but still cool, nice at the beach. And you can see on the other side, we got a lot of people from Mexico, probably mostly Mexican nationals over there, enjoying the beach with families and so forth. Kids in the water, playing soccer and doing all kinds of picnicking and activities that most families would do. Kind of a cool day for even people in San Diego. Got a couple of people on horseback coming down, so that's part of the people that were associated with the horses, and they usually come down here, ride their horse, and then they'll use that area for that particular purpose. But back in the old days, it used to be you could just go right up to the border fence and meet relatives and friends and whoever without having any hassles about going over to the other ports of entry, because then it was really restricted and you would probably get searched because they think you had contact with the border which is another term they use, nexus, and nexus means you have contact with the border. Technically, by law, you could be searched even just because you're this close to the border, but technically we're in, technically we're in a special contact area, so we're under observation, so there shouldn't be any problems. So head back up this way.
So all this stuff is new from when you used to work here?
Oh yeah, this is new right here, and it continues on, and they've even got some spots that are 3 levels deep.
And what's this big tower here, John?
Oh, that, well, there's your power box thing there, but that's a camera, radio, and other cameras that are set up. So they can watch this like a virtual thing from an office somewhere.
Right.
And as the Border Patrol agent who I briefly talked to, he already confirmed that there's a San Diego sector that you can go through if you want to come down and meet or talk to somebody.
Right.
Which is kind of nice, because that way you don't have to involve a bunch of other people at the other port of entry, because they're not going to do it, they don't have the time.
Now, what about that thing over there? That's like on the Mexican side. Is that they're watching the Mexican border?
Oh no, this is U.S. The lights?
The lighthouse.
That's ours.
No, that tower on the other side.
Oh, that's theirs. That's just a regular lighthouse from years and years and years ago. You know, from ships that may come into the area because they have to have a lighthouse. And then of course they've got the bull ring right over here and so forth.
Bullfighting.
Yeah.
Yeah, we can see that. So it's interesting. I mean, you know, it's not like there's a bunch of like refugees pounding on the wall. They're just over there.
No, and I was kind of holding off on saying a comment about it, but as you mentioned it, I was looking like, well, where's all the people that you see in the media?
Right.
Who are probably paid to go over there, and technically they're supposed to be held up at a hotel somewhere, being taken care of by the Mexican government.
Where's Ocasio-Cortez? She's supposed
pending,
to be crying.
Yeah, exactly. Pending their hearing and stuff. And by law, if you found an illegal who was questionable, they were supposed to start the raids today or tomorrow. But in Obama's administration, a guy or a woman could walk up to a Border Patrol agent, like I kind of walked up to one, and just say, hey, I'm here illegally. I need to go to a hearing officer. Please give me my document hearing request. He'd have to give me a sheet of paper with the information, and then I could walk away and disappear after 6 or 9 months, which is what a lot of them did.
So have they eliminated that loophole?
No, that's still a legal possibility, but right now they may have tightened it down from the new administration in the fact that they can still take the person if they have room, detain them, and put them in a holding area. But right now, with all the problems with families and so forth, then they're probably not going to want to do it. But I wouldn't risk it, you know.
So is this the exact spot where you used to work?
No, this is, I had the jurisdiction of everywhere you could see.
Wow.
From here to the East Coast.
What do you mean?
From the Mexican border all the way to Canadian border. That was my proper jurisdiction.
Well, because you were customs, you were not.
Well, so is that gentleman in the agent's car over there from Border Patrol too. He has the same jurisdiction. From this border to the ocean, in jurisdictional waters, all the way to the Canadian border, all the way to the East Coast.
But you were explaining to me on the drive over here that Tom Ridge combined.
Oh yeah, he did that. He took everything and put it in a big bowl, stirred it up, and walked away, basically, is the description. And when they did that, they kind of caused some problems because the paperwork is different. And if I seize something or arrest somebody, unless they had an immigration question, I could just turn them over to immigration. If I didn't, I still had to do the same paperwork that was combined so it worked so that they could use the same information, run it through their databases, and mix with the same intelligence and certain information. I was just noticing we were being looked at by a couple of possible illegals over there just now. They were coming up to see who we are because we're filming or doing some sort of an interview. Okay, and that's fine. You know, that's all.
Well, but back on Tom Ridge, though.
Look, see, there's somebody coming up.
Do you think it's less efficient to have everything combined, or is it more efficient?
Soccer.
So there's people right there on the other side. They're waving.
I can't hear him.
They were waving.
Ah.
So do you think, John, is it more efficient the way Tom Ridge has it, or is it less efficient?
I'm sorry. Oh, I think it
Tom
was
Ridge-
less efficient because he took other agencies, including my other former agency at Secret Service, which is totally ridiculous because we all went through the basic academies, and then after that we went to specialized academies where other agencies have no need to know. So when they're mixing them is one thing. It gives them a generalized work cohesiveness, no different than if I was transferred over. I could work with the Border Patrol guy because he's Customs or Border Protection, but he's cross-designated. So was I. I was cross-designated up to 40 different agencies. Customs, Immigration, Department of Defense, Fish and Wildlife, you name it. Everybody. DEA, whatever. This guy, he's probably cross-designated for the purposes of, in case he stops somebody or seizes a vehicle or people in it that came across illegally or not, that he has the ability to do the same paperwork. That's the only benefit to what maybe if Tom Ridge understood what he was doing. Michael Chertoff, same thing.
Well, and of course, these are guys, Chertoff especially, who have been implicated in possible connections to 9/11, terror financing. Scott Bennett's book talks.
I was just looking at that the other day because I had the website that showed some people who have dual citizenship with Israel.
Well, and Chertoff's mother certainly was an Israeli citizen. Is Chertoff?
Yeah.
We know that?
Well, that's what's on the information, but I mean, I have a friend of mine in Russia right now, and I mentioned him earlier, and he's got a dual citizen passport, which you can do. If you go to another country, you can get a dual citizenship passport, but he's got one that's diplomatic, and he's working under Putin, which means he's technically a Russian official. So if he was to come from Mexico right now on a flight from Mexico City and wanted to come through the border, he could show one of 2 or 3 passports. If he came in as a Russian national diplomat, they have to give him the same respect as if he was one of ours going to their country. And yet he's dual citizenship. That's an immigration technical question, but a lot of people don't understand it. But if a lady came up to me one day, she was Italian, American or something, and she came up and says, well, I got dual citizenship. Well, that's good, congratulations, but you can only show one passport. Take your best bet. How do you want to be treated today? It was kind of a joke, but technically under the law, let's say she could just give me her Italian passport, I would treat her according to what we had on Italians that day. Maybe we had a special, maybe I had to pull her in and search her. If she was just a U.S. citizen carrying an Italian passport, that's another profile. Profiles are abundant, just thousands and millions.
When you say profile, you mean like profiling, like
the type of story, the type of situation that they may have coming from a foreign country dictates how we have to enforce the law or not enforce it a certain way, or maybe we have lookouts on people that are doing it, claiming something. Most people don't even get into that, but that obviously showed inexperience, or she was not being corrupt in any way. She was being honest. She was just being honest. You know.
So this fence, this is new since the last time you were here. When's the last time you were here?
Well, I haven't been here in years, but this part of the fence was being added on. It's the other one on behind that, the rusted out one.
Yeah.
That was the original fence. I forgot to ask him about the mile marker.
What do you mean?
There's supposed to be a mile marker. So at every section, oh, he's
to those guys.
Yeah.
We're about to cross the thing.
Yeah.
So now, is any of this built during the Trump administration?
No.
No.
No. Well, no, some of this stuff has been, but the fencing is still going on, is being completed, but they're only doing it in sections, like 200 or 300 miles worth. It's 1,500 miles from San Diego basically to Brownsville, maybe 1,700 miles, maybe 2,000 miles. You know, the United States is basically 3,000 miles across, give or take, wherever, north border, southern border. But when you're actually talking about how much fencing, the Democrats don't want the fencing to be put up because they've gotten paid off. They want people to come in and vote Democrat so they can take over.
I think it's more than that. I think they want a porous border so that anybody that they want coming in can come in, so that they can basically demoralize the country, drain the finances by having California give illegal immigrants health care when retired veterans of our services, like the Border Patrol, Secret Service, like you, are struggling to cover your own health care. Gavin Newsom wants to give out free health care to people who don't even live here.
Yeah, that's a fair statement. But it still goes beyond, like the refugees that come here from other countries, that this one congressman's office, I won't mention Susan Davis, with a D after her name, in San Diego, or Duncan Hunter's office was even checking into it, and they still haven't gotten back to me. It's been over a month now. But they were looking into that stuff, and they're just not doing what they're supposed to be doing. They're giving refugees up to $6,000 a month, which is retirement money for most people.
Yeah, that's a lot.
It is. I could survive on $6,000 a month, couldn't you? And then Social Security cards, which they're not supposed to get unless they come here legitimately and then work. Then they have to get into the system. They're required by law to have one for tax purposes, but it's not for tax purposes. It's for Social Security. It's totally different. So the government lies to us. And of course, I'm a whistleblower, so I know all these things now because I've been researching this and I've been messed with. But a U.S. passport, the last whistleblower, I'm still trying to get the name of this female who talked to a guy named Tosh Pulley on social media, still hasn't arranged for a contact to do an interview so I can clarify the one question. Excuse me, but will she release her name? It's obvious where she was talking. She was in a federal building or judiciary type, high-ranking type level building where they have a lot of stuff going on, or legislative power. And they didn't identify her for the whole video, which was like 15 minutes or whatever long. And I'm thinking, well, if she's a whistleblower, she's already coming out. People know her, they're going to recognize her. So what's the deal? I'm a whistleblower. Let me know her name so I can talk to her. You know, so I can say, hey, look, are you sure you stated that right, that they give out U.S. passports? They can give you asylum documents. They can give you other potential stateless because you're under political asylee status. They can give you like half dozen other statuses, but they don't hand out U.S. passports to anybody that comes here. There's people who are waiting in line from Mexico, for instance, and other countries. Been waiting 5 years after they get resident status to take a test so they become naturalized, like some people I know personally.
Now, what about all this stuff that David Hawkins has told us where Serco runs the National Visa Center? Have you heard of that before speaking to David?
I haven't spoke to him in depth about it, but I do remember him touching on that. That's a consideration, because that means that these people are getting money to do that, and it feeds into their programs, so they've got money from their sources. I didn't want to mention that guy Soros, but his name pops up a lot of places, but so do a lot of other people. Even Chapo Guzman is worthy of about $200 to $300 to $500 billion, and he can give all these people in the United States, every one of us standing around right here, $3.3 million and not even blink an eye.
Right.
And people don't have any comprehension of what $1 billion does.
What's happening to El Chapo now? He's in jail?
Yeah, he's in the Supermax, supposedly, over
ADX
Colorado.
Florence, right.
So he's underground.
We haven't really heard anything about him.
You probably won't, unless he has an attorney to make publicity type statements or to get information out. But he's still under scrutiny because he escaped. And
yeah, 5 times.
Yeah, and that's pretty good. That's
Has
like
anybody ever escaped from ADX Florence?
No, not that I'm aware of. But if you're in the prison, if you've been to Miami or to some of the other places, their high security Supermax up in Colorado is the epitome. Once you go down, you don't see they have sunlight anymore.
Wow.
Although you're supposed to have access to it or get access to the windows or the ability to have sunlight, because it's a health issue. If you don't have a health issue they're taken care of, then it can be blocked off. Then you've got a civil rights violation.
Right.
And then that's not good. But a lot of people don't understand the politics and the other stuff that goes on behind the scenes on that, because this guy may have been paying people like Nancy Pelosi, Chuck Schumer,
right.
Left-wing Democrats, Dianne Feinstein, who have actually been to and talked to in their offices.
You've spoken to Dianne Feinstein.
Well, I talked on a conference call that was during the 60 Minutes fiasco back years ago, when somebody else pulled up a document and tried to overtake my story, which I don't get into because it's not a big deal, but I can't imagine one whistleblower fighting to lie over another whistleblower's information, but that's what it was, basically.
Well, aren't there people out there who pose as whistleblowers to muddy up stories?
Yes, exactly. See, that's why I like you, Jason. You're right on top of that. You see right through that stuff where most people go, oh, well, isn't it this or isn't it that? Oh, come on, use your brain. They're just trying to deflect the actual truth, which I had information like the overflight list of John Heinrich.
Right.
That ties in. That was a major, still is, and they still haven't released the information to the media in a way that they've done a big story because they haven't investigated it. They haven't called me up and says, John, we need to ask you a few questions about this.
They haven't even acknowledged it, have they?
Well, people at Customs at my level, the local level, the people that I had signed, the names that I signed onto the actual document, which is posted on the internet.
Yeah.
Because up in the upper right-hand corner has got my first initial, last name, and my badge number 22201.
Yeah, you showed us that.
The date was January, I think, in '94, give or take, and then plus 10 days. And I took it to the supervisor I had, who failed. I had turned it over to him to turn it over to the district director in the San Diego area, which was Rudy Camacho. He's gone. To other people who are gone, which is interesting. They get rid of these people, but they don't prosecute them because it digs up other information that they will turn right around and reveal themselves.
Right.
Hey, we're starting to get a crowd over here, a little bit of visitors.
Right. Now, what about that overflight list that has nothing to do with Jeffrey Epstein? That plane wasn't on the Heinrich overflight list?
No, but what's the connection I make is if they could do an overflight list that says don't be at an airport that's supposed to notify you to be there, then they could do the same thing with Jeffrey Epstein or anybody else. Anybody underage.
So there could be another overflight list.
I have the names and dates of birth of all the people on the list, 167 names. And then I had it verified through a friend of mine who was with immigration at the time. He verified none of them had entry documents. So that means if Jeffrey Epstein was friends with Bill Clinton and he put him on a special list, he could fly anywhere and land with some sort of a special exclusion rule that the president has as an overflight, no different than Bush Jr. allegedly let one of the bin Ladens get out of the United States during the shutdown of 9/11.
So any president has that overflight?
Yes, they do, because if they shut down the air, losing my terminology, the airwaves or the airfields and the pathways of the airlines, the commercial, military's on high alert that nobody could come or go, and he allowed these people to leave.
They had a ground stop. Never before has there been a nationwide ground stop.
Well, the only other time I could think was probably during the Kennedy assassination, but I was only 10. But I understood that they did shut the border down for a while. To do a total shutdown, maybe on the edge of being slightly illegal, but when it deals with nexus to the border, national security, you're looking at it right now, that's national security right there, that's the fence. Then that means that people can't come and go as they wish, and it's slowed down or stopped for a purpose.
Right. Yeah, because they want to make sure nobody's leaving.
Suspects usually leave to go to the other countries immediately after an incident.
Right.
Which is a giveaway, you know, even during the assassination of Kennedy in '63.
Right. So we've got this big gate up here.
Right. Well, it's almost like the one you're looking at directly in front of you. That's a gate right there. Same difference. I don't want to point at it too much because I don't want to be too obvious, but we're not doing anything wrong. It's just that I don't want to give it away. But I pointed that out, that they have it in sections. At each border entry area, a special gate as an alternate where they can open it up and get people through. Truck.
In the event of emergency, like if...
Yeah, a truck, or even a couple of Sherman tanks could roll through there. But let's say the border is shut down. Let's say they have an incident, a terrible incident where there was a bomb or a shooting or something, and they have to shut it down, and they can't process the traffic to clear it. Then at some point in time, they may have to have an alternate gate so that other people like myself, when I was carrying a badge with me at the time, then I could go to another gate, get through, or a congressman or a senator or the diplomats or other certain high-level people, or even people working for our government, or the lower level, U.S. citizens, U.S. residents, and after that, nobody except for the children or family of U.S. citizens and residents can come through.
So back on Epstein for a second.
Oh, sure.
You know, for people maybe who have just joined us and haven't seen you on the show before, you were, in addition to being U.S. Customs and Border Patrol, you were in the Secret Service.
Secret Service, San Diego PD, private investigator in between, U.S. Mint. That's
so
when
what do you think about Clinton going on the plane and leaving the Secret Service behind? Would the Secret Service ever allow that to happen?
Oh yeah, we were talking about that earlier. That's a violation of security. Now technically, even when Nixon was at the White House and he would get drunk or something, he'd typically walk around with a glass of scotch, and that comes from a guy that I knew that was from New York, that worked there. He was my training mentor. He would brag about stuff like that to tell me, yeah, this stuff happens on occasion. If he got blazed drunk and decides he's going to walk out the front gate and he's got a glass of scotch, he said, open the goddamn gate right now. I'm the president, goddamn it, or whatever.
Right.
Then that Secret Service guy better grab an extra radio, a shotgun or an Uzi, in addition to his other sidearms, and go with him and see how far they get. And that means the agents at the office, I won't mention, there's a special designated code for that. They get notified, they'll come running out, they'll go get their limousines, and they'll be driving out like crazy to go protect him. And they'll block off the streets, short of notifying the local police, whoever that might be, so they can let him walk. If he wants to walk, he can walk. You can't stop the man from walking. Maybe he needs to get out and get some fresh air. Maybe he's claustrophobic or something.
But specifically, if the president orders the Secret Service to stand off and not guard him, is that an order that you can take?
No, that's not a valid deal. The president, at one point in time, if it looks like it's a risk, let's say he wants to go and change into his shorts and head right down to the beach and start swimming, one of the other agents better strip down to his shorts and with the swim fins, a knife, a radio, and a gun or something, and start calling for the SEAL team and a submarine to be down there to do that.
So at a moment's notice, a president decides to go swimming, and that's how the Secret Service would mobilize.
Right.
Are we about to get yelled at?
I don't know. Is he pausing?
I don't know. He's just driving down.
No, he's just taking a look. He wants to make sure, because
I'm surprised the paint is scratched on that car. I usually would think that law enforcement vehicles are better maintained.
That's because he's been driving through some rough brush. You know, I used to do chases in the customs chase car. I was the one that was highly trained, so I got that duty a lot, and I enjoyed the hell out of it. Because I was
chasing people crossing the border?
In cars, high-speed pursuits, port runners.
Sounds dangerous.
It is.
And then what, do you shoot at the car?
No. We chase them down. If they pull over and they yield, then we put them through a procedure. We may arrest them, like on a felony hot stop. I actually chased one vehicle and even had a backup that was a Border Patrol unit, just like this guy. But the guy pulled off. He didn't know what was going on, and the suspect went into I got another unit. The suspect pulled into a cul-de-sac, and then the guy got away, but I chased him right back to Mexico. So
now, obviously, U.S. Customs and Border Patrol has no jurisdiction inside of Mexico, right?
No, by law, no. But I did work in Mexico, and that's a good question, because I just remembered. I was asked to work in Mexico. It was a commercially related thing when we're clearing documents on exports from Mexico to the United States or vice versa. And they had a little, like a trailer office set up. So I went over, full uniform, armed, walked right across, right into Mexico.
Wow.
And I even had a diplomatic passport at some point in time. But as long as they authorized it and said it was okay, it was fine.
Diplomatic passport, that's pretty cool.
Well, yeah, under U.S. Customs diplomatic status versus another agency. But I'm amiable with these people. I speak the language, and I could get along with them fine. Take a lunch break. You could get a lunch from somebody, tacos or something, and enjoy working.
Are we in the rattlesnake area right now?
What's that?
Is this the rattlesnake area right here?
Oh, well, normally rattlesnakes don't go near the ocean.
Okay.
I've never seen rattlesnakes at the ocean, but they did have a sign But yeah, I wouldn't go traipsing around in that. That's ice plant. And, you know, it brings up the interesting thing about the signs where they're protecting certain federal lands.
Yeah.
Is they would put up a sign protecting certain land, like before it was Otay Mesa, some other lands during Nixon, saying it was protected under federal law because of the least turned bird, or the desert cactus, or the desert tortoise.
Right.
Really? You know, why? Well, because they protected it under Federal Bureau of Land Management, and then when he got out of office, he gave that land to other high-ranking staff members.
Wow.
Which is illegal.
So wait a minute, has the Bureau of Land Management been corrupt forever?
I couldn't say forever, but I think they're tied in. A lot of the government agencies and bureaucracies, as you pointed out earlier, they are being corrupted. They are doing illegal things. They're asked to do stuff that I wouldn't do, and that's why I reported illegal activity. But a lot of these guys, they're doing stuff so that they block off the land and they give it to an official. Like one locally is Alan Burson. He's a former U.S. attorney. He also became the former drug czar, and he was also involved in corruption. He bought land through his father-in-law down at San Ysidro, which is just a big parking lot. And they were bringing drugs across the parking lot.
Wow.
Through the fence, which we haven't seen the current fence, but we will. But he can't own federally land that was sold to the public because it's conflict of interest. He benefits. He's not supposed to benefit. So all these people in government, Dianne Feinstein, Nancy Pelosi, Chuck Schumer, any of these people who have millions and millions of dollars, they're compromising their status as an elected official. They need to be arrested and put in prison.
So John, where are we here? We're in San Diego, or no?
Yeah, we're in San Diego city limits, but we're at the border in San Ysidro, which is a section of San Diego, still part of the same town and everything, but it's a subsection at the border.
Okay.
So we're probably, well, less than 500 yards
from Mexico?
From Mexico, maybe even close to.
This is where you used to work, or?
Yeah, I used to work over in those areas, but you can't see them until we get up over the bridge section here.
Got it.
So we'll take a walk, go up to the bridge, and I'll be able to tell more. But if they got that stuff blocked off, all you'll see is the cars going into Mexico, and secondary, which is where we inspected vehicles, plus they also have the license plate readers that I put into the suggestion system when I was at U.S. Customs, as well as the license plate readers coming back from Mexico so that the license plates could be recorded while you're monitoring the people, checking documents so you can keep your gun hand free, which is a big safety issue. You can see there that there's a sign, employees only, but they could be either federal or they could be part of the construction for the refit of the new border buildings. I don't see the bridge for the pedestrians just yet, but we'll have to wait till we get up there to see for sure.
So it's interesting, like if you make a wrong turn, you're headed to Mexico over
Well,
there.
that's what happened about a couple of years ago now. A Marine who had guns in his vehicle actually drove down, and he didn't know how to turn around. So he drove in and told the the Mexican aduanas that he made a improper turn, or he didn't get the right turn, and we can go across that.
So what happened?
Well, they detained him, and at some point he admitted they had guns in the vehicle.
Obviously illegal to have guns in Mexico, right?
Shit, we gotta hurry, man.
Is it illegal for him to have guns in the car if he's in Mexico?
Yeah, you're not supposed to unless you have a badge, or if you're federal like I was, and I actually had to talk to Mexican generals and stuff like that too.
So what happened to that Marine?
They detained him. They actually put him in prison for a while.
Oh wow.
You know what? I don't think we can cross here. We can go up over and maybe cross somewhere else there. Let's try this.
It's really hot out.
You think it's hot?
I mean, you know.
Oh, I think it's cool. I'm okay. Look at that guy. Huh? Yeah, the biggest problem I see already is you can only see a certain amount of visual information has changed because it's not the same.
What do you mean?
Well, the configuration of the border and the buildings are different now than when I was there.
The U.S. border facilities are more built up?
Yeah, it's more built up now. Now, if you look to the right, those yellow holes and those cameras over there are license plate readers.
Huh.
So that means people are driving through, coming out of Mexico, are possibly getting checked to go this direction to go in. So they've rerouted traffic so that they go through these inspection areas. So this has changed drastically since I was here. But I put the license plate reader suggestion in years ago and it's documented. That's a big deal. Of course, what people in Washington do is they steal the ideas and then try to take credit for it. $10,000 cash rewards, promotions, and all kinds of stuff.
What do you mean, for suggesting that? You get a $10,000 reward?
The bridge.
Oh, is that the footbridge right there? I mean, this seems like not a place to cross, though. It's a highway.
No, it's okay. It's just that we need to get across to there.
I think we got to go to the crosswalk, no?
Technically, but if you're careful.
Seems like a good way to get hit, John.
What's that?
Seems like a good way to get crashed into.
Yeah, I know. What was that?
Somebody screaming at me from out of the car.
Well, I was either going to go up to the bridge part, but...
Well, here we go, pedestrian bridge.
It's not the same bridge.
Not the same bridge.
This is the old bridge. No, this is the new bridge. You see what's going on down here?
What?
That's south. That's where those cars are supposed to be going. They're rerouting cars around this way to go through those inspection booths, which is southbound into Mexico.
So what does that mean?
It's backwards. It's different. If they've got inspection booths over there, and they've got it for southbound, and all those people are going down into Mexico from around this direction. If they were going from the Mexican side to the U.S. side, they would have been going the other direction over here.
So this is not good, or?
No, this is good. This is real good. This is what I was looking for earlier, but it should have been down there. So they put all this stuff up, and they're blocking the view.
The view of Mexico?
Well,
yeah, that's interesting.
Those offices, the way they've got them situated, let's pause here for a minute. The way they've got those things in the parking lot over there, the way it's situated,
yeah,
is in a secondary inspection area. That's what that looks like to me. So when people pull in to get inspected and then they get released, But this is like the opposite. This is going southbound into Mexico, and they didn't have booths up before. See, now they've got it situated so that they can block you off, like these people who are illegally transporting large sums of money. Motorcycles in particular are the worst violators. The motorcycles.
What do you mean? Why?
I almost threw something in front of a motorcycle rider one time, because they'll speed up. They're carrying contraband or they're taking money.
How much stuff can you carry in a motorcycle?
In a backpack? How many hundreds of thousands in a backpack? You know, so.
What's the largest amount of money you ever saw somebody trying to transport over the border?
Oh, not much. I mean, we didn't catch that much. I've seized 20,000 on seizures and things like that. But
and then they just keep it, or what?
No, it's processed through the district, and then it's processed through the U.S. Attorney. It goes through a special fund through the HIDA group, which is all supposed to be part of education, training, and other benefits that we use it for, type of thing, or equipment. So if I seized a bunch of money. But there was a seizure I mentioned to you before about the guy that is the owner of the racetrack, Jorge Hank, and he's worth millions. He got involved in flying in the United States. I was going to take you to Brown Field next, east of here. And he brought in over $200,000 in a briefcase.
You're not allowed to carry more than 10 grand, right?
Well, sure you are. You just have to declare it.
Oh, and then what do? They tax you on it.
Yeah, or we seize it and then we keep it. Or we seize it, keep it, and tax him or penalize him or whatever.
So what happened to
How
that
would
guy?
you forget $200,000 in a briefcase?
Yeah, I mean, obviously you wouldn't.
Unless you're that rich that it's not a big deal.
Well, you got the whole briefcase.
But he's gotten seized items before, and he's violated the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Endangered Species Act. He's had restricted items. And if you look back west, you can see where we were about half an hour ago, over there and over the hill. That's how far we've come.
Yeah.
So it's about a couple miles. But they've situated it different now. So it's like if you're going into Mexico, you're driving south. So that means all these people who want to go into Mexico are coming around this way, following around. They're going through a southbound inspection booth, which reads their license plates, and they will record the license plates to show them when they've been in, how long they've been, and when they come back. That's a lot of important data. So, yeah, they've restructured this totally different. So if we had accidentally got stuck over there, there's no way we would have gotten out. We would have been forced to come this way, and the only other out would have been the far right lane, and I think that still makes you go in.
And then what? You're
stuck.
Wasting time. Can't you just drive right out of Mexico?
No.
Why not?
At one point, there was a left turn only before you go in to give you a chance to get out. So that if there was a U.S. official there, you would have to declare to him, hey, I'm just making a U-turn, you're not going into Mexico, and you could go back. You don't have to go to Mexico, but that's the problem, is the way they have it set up. It's complicated for some people. Okay, here's a couple of cars that I just talked about. They didn't go the other direction. They're either lost. See where they go. Are they going up to a traffic light? Wasn't there a traffic light right over there?
No, I can't see. There's trees.
I think there was. And if they do, they'll just go across and go out of traffic. They don't want to go to Mexico. But they at least had this opportunity. There's a sign down there that says U-turn something, but I can't read it from here. It's in the on the other side of the fence.
So now what is this arch over there?
I don't know. That's just another significance to a location. It has no significance for me or law enforcement.
Funny, there's Mexico right there.
Yeah, I think that's what they did. They went up, there was a U-turn, and they got out of traffic. So they can go down, they can go over the bridge, make another U-turn and go north, or they can go on the San Ysidro Boulevard over there, which is on the other side.
Oh, we can see more of the fence over there.
The what?
More of the border wall, right? Is that what I'm looking
at? Oh, no,
at?
border wall's down that way.
That's not wall right there?
No, no, private. Over there's the border wall. See over there?
Oh, yes.
So draw a line. I'm getting thirsty here.
Yeah, it's pretty hot out. You can see it just beyond that building there. Mm-hmm. All right.
Yeah, I think that's what they did. They did get into a special line. It says speed bump and a U-turn of some sort, so they did get out. Yeah. So you don't have to go to Mexico. There's usually at least one or two options to turn out so you don't get trapped into going to Mexico. Like, oh my God, I forgot my passport or something.
Right.
So why would you be stupid enough to have to go ahead and just drive in?
Right.
Because then it's a big hassle.
Coming out and everything.
Yeah, and then when you come back, and it's just a big deal. And if you're an immigrant and you have to have your ID with you anyway, that's $250, $300+ that you have to pay immigration to look it up on the computer, verify you, spend an hour or two.
Oh yeah, that's a pain.
I've done it. I've detained all kinds of people and turned them over, and they lied to me. College students will do it all the time. Oh, he's a U.S. citizen. He's got a California ID card. So it doesn't mean anything. They don't know what the requirements are. I'm the designated official. I went through the training. So if he's got a driver's license, I asked this one guy, I said, where were you born? He said he was born in one of the islands. He looked like he was Samoan, but he was born in one of the other islands. Where's your green card? I left it at home. That's what he said. So I said, good. You need to have one of these guys that open their mouths too much to go get it. Otherwise, you're going to be detained here and pay $200 or $300 because that's what immigration has to do. So the other guys were trying to smuggle him in, basically, and they can't say anything. Aiding and abetting.
What do you mean they can't say anything?
Interfering with a federal officer.
So just saying anything.
That's right. They cannot interfere with the inspection process whatsoever.
And they're trying to lie. That's obviously interfering.
That right there, I could have arrested him.
Wow. People maybe don't know that.
Of course they don't. That's why I carried the badge. I went to the academy. I'm the one that's got all the training. But I had extra training because of my other backgrounds.
Right.
So I knew that if they tried to get this guy in, somebody would say, oh, if he's with you, go right ahead. Well, shit, how many people do you think he could smuggle in that way?
Right.
You know.
Okay, maybe. Well, what else do we want to see over here?
Well, I just wanted to go over here to the center to get a better view.
Sure.
Because those are the cars coming in. That's what I wanted to see, how it's situated. Because they're still, the way they still have it situated, if I'm not mistaken, those cars that are coming out right there, they've already been cleared and they're just going out. And I want to count the lanes. Jesus.
That guy's really charging the border, huh?
Yeah, he's doing something. Watch, he's either in a hurry to get into Mexico because he's being chased or something.
What's this big building right here?
Well, that's part of the new configuration. See, that's the whole problem, is you can't see
all these weird symbols
all on the other side, so it actually is a block to what's going on. It kind of interferes with your ability to see what the traffic is like. They've got cameras set up, they've got lights set up. It's more air, because I used to suck up fumes down there.
Oh yeah.
And I'm sensitive to that stuff. But there's supposed to be over 24 lanes. They may have 27 to...
Wow, so it's really under construction.
They may have 30 lanes here, but they don't have them all open yet. Let's keep going to the center.
Sure.
These people are all going into Mexico there. Those parking areas look like they're probably governed.
So there's the wall over there.
Yeah. It'll stop right where the border entry is, and then it'll continue up the hill on the other side.
How do other people that you talk to around San Diego feel about the wall? I mean, it's California. They must hate Trump mostly.
Oh, they don't. The people I do know, they know what it is. It's a fence. Democrats are going to fight him no matter what it is. I don't care what the Democrats think. They're stupid and ignorant.
But I mean, just like general people around in San Diego. I mean, if you were living in a city that...
They don't know what the border's like. They don't work at the border. They don't know. Illegals do. People that go across the border every day do. They know what it's like. But it needs to be built. Otherwise, people are just going to keep jumping the fence. So right ahead, you can see a rail car.
Yeah.
That rail car comes from Mexico every day, a different rail car or whatever, and it's either loaded with contraband, illegals, or legitimate merchandise.
Huh.
When they had that shooting recently, the car came in and was funneled into an area where the guy couldn't get out. Yeah, there's a customs.
Like kind of over there, huh?
See, there's a customs official. So there's parking. Those are canine vehicles over there. They've got some parking over here, but that doesn't look right. More parking over there. I used to park way over there, right across from the trolley station, which is over there. And the trolley station comes down, parks, picks up people, and then goes back the other direction through San Diego. But you know what? I dealt with so much corruption that they didn't want John Carman to do his job. They didn't want me chasing people, but that's what I'm supposed to do. But it was almost like they wanted to criticize me anyway. That's the supervisors that I had, and those guys are gone. They're dead. They were corrupt, they were crooked, they were taking money, doing all kinds of stuff. But
who's giving them money? The cartels?
Both cartels and influence, like that guy Hank Roan, who owns the racetrack in Mexico. He's a big guy. He has a lot of influence and money. You know, if we keep going, we'll end up the other side here, but I just wanted you to get a look at it. I don't want to go down all the way, but you can see where the trolley goes right up to the building, and the buses come up to there, and then they turn around. If I could see the rail, I could tell you better.
It's hard to see through.
So when you come walking out of Mexico, you come out of pedestrian. These people here that are coming out of Mexico, and look at all the speed bumps. 1, 2, 3,
it's like
4, 5, 6.
Right,
oh my God, there's so many speed bumps.
Well, just so you can't blast through, right?
Exactly. And if they have the stop sticks, those are the ones that they throw out to puncture the wheels.
Oh yeah.
And Highway Patrol's been using those for years. Well, yeah, we got a clear shot of secondary right over there, where they've got some.
Oh yeah, it's people in line. So that's where you're checking out cars and stuff.
Right. They do the inspections.
Secondary inspection.
I would look for compartments in vehicles, or look at the driver if he was a suspect. Look at this. The gates just went down.
So what does that mean?
Your transmission, they're transmitting some information. They could be doing a special secondary search right there. They could just stop the cars to stop the flow, or they could turn around and then they'll put the canines over them.
Huh. So what happens now? Someone's going to come out?
No, they're holding them for a purpose. They can do it either by having canines go out, holding traffic, or they'll hold them for another reason, just to keep the flow of traffic down. So they control the traffic. I don't think there's really hard secure gates. I mean, this one on the far left is open, but they could be sitting there for anything, for any reason.
And for any amount of time, I would think.
Yeah, as long as reasonable, usually. But as long as the guy had a referral and he got into the wrong line, he would have to get out and go way over there. I don't exactly see how they would have it set up unless he pulled in over to the side, or they would have to remove him, drive back through another direction, and then come around here. But there's got to be an alternate way to move around. So they've got this thing really shut down and restricted. And I haven't been through here because I just don't want to go through Mexico.
Yeah.
Because of the threats I've had. But yeah, I can see one customs guy walking through like he's getting off.
Yeah.
He's getting off work. He doesn't care. He's just walking.
He's not checking? No, you're right.
No, he's just like he's walking to get off work or do something else.
It's strange.
Let's walk further down.
Stopped everybody.
This right here should be the actual entrance where the flags are. That's usually how they set it up.
Okay.
So if you got off the trolley, if you got off a bus, or if you got let out, you'd get out over here, walk up to the building, and you could probably walk in, but you have to walk over and go through a special exit gate, which is on the other side. This is usually for people coming back from Mexico, and it used to be messed up before, where they had too many entrance points. They didn't have enough security people, and they had people wandering around that could enter at any location. So it wasn't a very secured site. There's San Diego PD's finest.
Yeah, what are they? Just
look at that, the old unit. This is a new uniform, but I used to wear the tan. And you notice his hair's kind of long. He's wearing
it's
an
a
actual.
woman.
No, it's a guy.
Is it?
Yeah, he's wearing a cap. Haven't worn those in years, but he's with the collision investigation, so he's probably a traffic division or something. Kind of interesting.
Collision investigation.
Older guy. Yeah, he's traffic. He's got a traffic patch. Huh. Okay, so they've changed this so that when you drive on San Ysidro Boulevard, and we could have done this earlier, we could go all the way down, go through here, look around, and then go back, make a U-turn, and drive right back out. And right across the street is the infamous Jack in the Box, where they've had all kinds of smugglers that would meet.
Oh, really?
Oh, yeah.
So that Jack in the Box there is...
Yeah. That's Mexico right over there. So once they smuggle in or hang around, the polleros would hang out, meet me at a certain location. They'll use that as a location, or a car.
A McDonald's trolley station.
Well, McDonald's is right inside.
So that's the trolley right there, Stumptown?
That's the trolley.
And where's that going? What does that thing
North
do?
through San Diego. It'll go through Old Town, downtown
yeah,
San Diego,
on that.
Old Town. It'll go up north and then turn off to the right and go eastbound and break off into other areas. So you can go all over with the trolley.
Huh.
if it's the right one. But I've been through here. I've ridden on the trolley where I chased a guy that broke out of the inspection area. Chased him on. He was on board the actual car, and then he was hanging on the outside, and I had to tell this stupid San Diego trolley officer to stop the vehicle.
That's like out of a movie.
Huh?
That's like out of a movie.
Well, it is. And I chased him down and caught him, and that was it. But
you should have had a fist fight with him on the top of the trolley while it was speeding through, and then he falls off holding on with one hand.
That would have worked. No, I've used martial arts here many times, and it works very well. And I never had to really hurt anybody, which is good. But oh yeah, you could easily turn it into a deal like that because of the stuff that goes on here. And by the way, this used to be a parking lot right in here, and there's a special marker. I just noticed that big piece of cornerstone.
225?
255, whatever it is.
What do you think that is?
Is I caught some Mexican guy from the trolley in the old employee parking lot stealing a car.
Wow.
Right after my car was stolen. So I knew to look.
Right. Maybe he's the guy.
It was an immigration officer's car, so I made an arrest. So that worked out just fine. But now you can't park real close, and then they've got all these other buildings. Where do the employees park? I don't know that yet. If it was me, I'd say put up a special parking lot for the employees and be done with it. But they're not like that.
Well, how much of this is new? How much of this is new? Since
all of it. They've reconstructed the inside, and I could tell by just the configuration, most of the outside is new. The inside may be a little bit original, where it's concrete from the 70s. And I was noticing the tanker car up there too.
BNSF?
Yeah, like nobody knows what's inside the tanker car, right? It could say anything. And if it was orange juice, normally they would transport it through Otay Mesa, which is 6 miles east of here.
Orange juice transports in giant things like that?
No, stainless steel, specially configured tankers.
Seems nasty.
But I was using that as an example. That would probably have kerosene or oil.
Yeah, I was going to say it looks like diesel fuel or something.
Yeah. Well, we just decided to come out and visit Otay Mesa, another location where I've worked. And on our way back, we saw a good chance and opportunity to show you what the airfield at Brown Field is like, because that's an international designated airport where if you fly from Mexico or a foreign country and you decide to land here, you have to report into customs. You have to give an hour's notice. And then you fill out a declaration form. You have to have passports and all the appropriate information on your passengers on a manifest to present to a customs officer, usually a customs officer and or an immigration officer who's cross-trained and designated. I just happened to notice, well, we have several aircraft blocked off over here for overnight service, or they're staying here. And they also have a dual airport situation now, which means you can go in and check in for dual airport processing, which means you don't have to drive across the border. You can park near it and walk across and get pre-checked so you can fly from Mexico just across the border, which is less than a mile from here.
Fly less than a mile?
Less than a mile from here.
Why would you do that?
So you don't have to go to Lindbergh, downtown San Diego, to catch an Aeromexico to fly. You can come over here, park your car, and just walk across with your luggage. So you don't have to park your car.
Sure. Well, should we look at some of these aircraft?
Well, yeah. Plus, I wanted you to take a look at this Mexican registered aircraft, which is over here,
right,
which is interesting.
Hang on 1 second.
So there's a perfect example about the John Heinrich overflight list that we were talking about, which I've reported in the past. And I was mentioning, oh yeah, the aircraft have a certain designation when they're American. They have an N in front of the number.
Right.
You know, like this other one over here.
Well, we saw an interesting tail number over here. Well, these are all N aircraft, but there's
Correct.
one that I noticed. This is people who used to watch look at that, N999ND. That's a 9.3
yeah, that's
plane right there.
That's a nice one. It looks like a Gulfstream. I'm not up on all of my aircraft, but when you see the tips of the wings bent up like that,
those are winglets. They make it more efficient.
Right. It gives it more stabilization and lift and all these other things. But they're very powerful. They can go pretty fast. I think Barry Seal flew something similar because he was able to fly a plane that could go fast, but it could also go slow. And that's where he competed against these air interdiction guys. And I've flown with air interdiction from Customs. I've flown with DEA. I've flown with Border Patrol. So I get a well-rounded background on how things are supposed to work and how things work at our level. And you can connect the dots with what they do. And I found illegal activity even by some of the government agents that landed at Calexico, and they wanted me to do something so they could put a device, like a monitoring device or a transponder on a plane that supposedly had a bad guy who was involved in gun running and stuff like that, a Mexican guy, a Mexican national or something.
Well, we got a Mexican registered plane.
Yeah,
over
let's
here.
take a look at that as a good sample of just what Mexican registration looks like. It reminds me of the one on that list that I've been so famously trying to report to everybody, but nobody seems to respond. So this is a perfect opportunity to explain. There's a Mexican registered airplane. It's also another similar Gulfstream or a similar aircraft. They all seem to be going towards that high end. Very similar. I like the other one over here much better. It looks more better, but you can see by all the windows.
On it through this fence.
You can see by all the windows that they can obviously hold 25 people.
This one? Oh,
Yeah.
That's right.
Easy.
Well,
Yeah.
I don't know these types of aircraft well enough to identify it just by looking at it. People watching will know what
Oh
these...
yeah, but the key point is we're on the U.S. side of the border.
Yeah.
That's a Mexican registered plane.
Uh-huh.
Why is a Mexican registered plane blocked off here on the U.S. side? Because if something happens or there's an emergency, they want to get out of Mexico real quick, drive across, have a pilot meet them.
So, but how do we know that this person didn't just fly from...
We don't. Well, we could. You'd have to check the records, FAA records and stuff like that. But let's say that the pilot is a resident alien or a U.S. citizen and he's flying a Mexican registered aircraft. It's all based on that tail number there. And that's really unusual. See, technically, it's supposed to be marked on the main part of the plane or the wing, like this one over here to the right, which is U.S. side. And it's supposed to be a certain size. And these are marked on the engine, which is kind of interesting.
Because you could swap the engines off.
Maybe, but they do all kinds of finagling.
Well, we'd have to ask a pilot.
But at least you could see the fact that you've got one right there. There's a Mexican registered aircraft. So the idea was 167 people are on the list. That means they could come across. If they had 4 aircraft, you could split up 167 on 4 aircraft. That's 25, 50, 75, 100 on 4 aircraft, comfortably 25 each, which means you could still squeeze in a few extras on the others. Maybe to 30 each, maybe, something like that. For what reason? To get out of Mexico and maybe carrying duffel bags full of money. But the idea is it's on the U.S. side. They can't mess with them down there because if the government shuts down like it did in Venezuela or something, that's what the government will do. He will suddenly, the new president or the dictator or whoever would take over, shut down all traffic and travel out of the country that they're at, no different than 911 when we had 911 go down.
Right.
But there are people who are exempt. And if that's one of the, I don't remember that tail number, BAY, but it's an XA, a hyphen, and then usually a 3-letter designator of some sort.
XA is any Mexican aircraft. All U.S. aircraft have an N.
Correct.
At the start of the tail.
Usually, correct. That plane has a history. You could run it through the FAA,
Yeah.
even on your own computer.
Yep.
Right now.
Well, maybe later.
Yeah. When you run it through the customs database, then they come up with something totally different, and they show the actual travel, how many times it comes or goes across the border, what countries, the pilots' names. I think the ones we were looking at was Air Ejectivos, which was the name of a company. That sort of thing.
Interesting. All right, cool.
Mm-hmm.
All right, great.